And yes, we are Espresso Sesh, episode 97, the Genie in the house. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to
How's
be here.
it going? How's it going?
Oh, it's going great.
All right, the Genie. So, SF native guitar, avant-garde guitarist, looping innovator, performance artist. As we can see right now, it's already the studio change, like its vibe, like lights and cool. Let's introduce the Genie.
Well, I grew up in San Francisco. I'm a SF native, like you mentioned. I was born in LA, but I came here as a baby, and so I've been here all my life. You know, I've traveled around the world, but I've always called SF home. And I created a unique style of live looping involving guitar and a bunch of loop pedals, Chaos Pad. I use the iPod Touch with my toes to basically bring in songs and G-mix, a style I created called G-mixing, which is like remixing, except without, it's not software driven. You know, it's all done in the moment with live loops and whatnot. I also have a synth, micro Korg, and and a whole array of guitar techniques. I somewhat emulate scratching, like DJ scratch techniques, turntablism. I translate that to guitar and basically created my own style. So for the last 15 years, this has been my sole thing I've done for my livelihood and what I enjoy.
Okay, so you do this. You master this technique along like these years, and I mean, I've been reading like in your bio that you were like very much influenced by the invisible scratch pickles and the turntable scratch scene in San Francisco. There's like a big scene. I mean, back in the day, in the 90s, like in the 90s, probably they were like top notch in worldwide, no?
Definitely. That was very inspirational. You know, there's different influences I have. Some are musically based, primarily. Others are more like inspirational, or a variety. Of course, it all blends together. But they were a big inspiration. Being from San Francisco and seeing how they were avant-garde and doing, pretty much mastering their craft and taking it to a whole other level. So I think that's when I first got the idea that, wow, what if I really kind of master my thing and create something unique, that I saw the effect of truly mastering it and how it came across to the world. You know?
Yeah, because I mean, you pick up like a traditional instrument, guitar, no? Probably when you were a kid, no?
Yes.
And then you like develop your own like style, no? Because you play mostly the guitar on your lap, and you do, I mean, the live looping, and we will see, because I mean, we will hear also, no? And also, I mean, you are like the inventor of the G-mix, the G-mixing. So this, like you say, this analog way of remixing song, like
in the moment, live.
On the moment, live.
Not like standing in front of a laptop and doing the software, but literally doing it live. So it's you have to get the loops right in the moment, and they have to fit over whatever you're stacking them on top of, and it's its own style.
So we're gonna listen to this, because you got your equipment, and and also, I mean, like I said before, you're also like a performance artist, because you're not just a musician. You have like I mean, as we can see, you get like your own like setting that is like your vision, like actualized, no? Like definitely. Making like bring to, you know, you have your vision, you know what you want to do, and. Cool, we are very excited. And you have an album out. There is the Crystal Mirror Part 1.
Yes, Crystal Mirror.
Yeah, we're going to go through the Crystal Mirror studio and later on, no? But this is like a part of the trilogy, no?
Yes.
So it's going to be the second and the third one.
Exactly.
Really.
This was produced by my producer and friend, Jay Williams, Joss Who. And so we spent 5 years creating a whole huge catalog of music. And so this is the first time, you know, releasing some of that. So we have tons of music, and yeah, like you said, is the first of a trilogy.
The first of a trilogy, okay. And we I mean, you are already like here set up, no? And it's kind of like, I'm very curious to hear like what you do like here, no? So let's start with a little performance.
Let me tune up a little bit. Do you want to play a song on there?
Let's play a song. Okay, which one you want to play for?
How about Cathedral?
Cathedral. Okay, sounds great. All right. The Genie in the house. BFF, best frequencies forever, Espresso Sesh. and there was Cathedral, the Genie here. So like as we can hear in your sound, no, this the Crystal Mirror Part 1. So it's mostly like it's. I mean, you're a guitarist, but it's not like guitar driven, like in the conventional sense.
Right.
So it's mostly like this. It's electronica, like down tempo with like a kind of like. I mean, probably you mentioned your influence. No, you are influenced still by like Portishead, Tivoli Corporation. So that kind of down tempo world vibe, but also it's world vibe. No, so because you incorporate also elements from different culture, no, from far away sounds, in an interesting mix. And also, you are besides that, no, besides like looking far, like in the distant culture, you also look close because you were telling me like that last night you figured out that Mofono, actually, let's give a shout to Benji Mofono.
Benji, yeah, good friend.
You saw the interview like we did like a few weeks ago, and you G-mix one of his songs, no?
Yeah, I heard what he was playing on your show, and I thought, oh, wow, cool, this sounds great. Right away bought his EP and figured, hey, that'd be cool for the show tomorrow. It's always a nice feeling when it's like the fresh new G-mix. I mean, there's the ones that I practice over and over for my shows to make sure everything is perfect, but there's a good feeling when they're still new. It's hard to describe, but it's a magical feeling.
Magical feeling. Okay, I guess you are excited for that.
Yeah, why not?
All right, cool. All right, so let's see if everything is right here. We are live. You are listening to Best Frequencies Forever, Espresso Sesh every Tuesday from 2 to 4.
One is going out to all the straight up motherfucking B-boys. girls laid under. Sand around the joints in the summer. Pasadena, please. The Baja Blues ain't true. Office cold, I've been told. Never to admit anything, no matter who's in control. Spanish brown, destroying the town and getting built. With bonfire, the massive pills in the hot raspberry and the icy grape, and I will take any MC's whole crate. This is a rest in peace into the colors. The crowd war representation from like the 80s to the 90s, and that's where you will still find. about it, then it's a go. Yeah, man, if you talking about it, it's a show. But if you move about it, then it's a go. Man, if you talking about it, it's a show. But a nigga move about it, then it's a go. Yeah, man, if you talking about it, that's a show. If you move about it, then it's a go. Dynamic electromagnetic style systems. Golden timber circled and built only by the members. Each swallow, ready upwards upon the spinners. Movement improved, smooth shit, you grooving, you a winner. I'm a walking legend, talking stitched up in the cleanest. Upper levels, precious better, drip your neck and hands. With these zigging pop shirts, wave dips and leaners. The hard sound of people's answers received, smash signals, so to swim in. Magical places we get it, with the shiny gleaming. When I idle kiss, girl, I mind if I break the vision. The moonlight and diamond cloud glistening glaze that we get, that we get.
And it was live mixing on the spot, starting from something that was like very fresh from last night.
Yes, this morning, really.
This morning, actually, like a fresh inspiration. And then I heard some like kind of like Radiohead, like melodies.
Yeah, that was a Subterranean Homesick Alien off of OK Computer, old Radiohead song. And I G-mixed it over Shabazz Palaces.
Okay, so, you know, like, and in the meanwhile, I saw like you control like everything with your feet, like with your toes, like no problem. Like, you know, enter a passcode in your iPad, like, you know, pa. Cool. And it's great because, you know, like you are playing off iTunes mostly, no? Like you're
it depends. It depends on like here because of the convenience, but I also sometimes use an OP1. It's a little like synth drum machine, so I can kind of build beats live. In the past, when I used to like Velcro it to my guitar, I would use beat making apps like a Beatmaker or iMachine, that kind of thing. But for the sake of, let's say, if I have to kind of like DJ in a way, it frees up my hands to just control it with my feet, and that way it's like all my hands are doing other stuff. Cool,
man. It's great because, you know, like it's you know, it's very fluid. The flow is very organic, no? But in the meanwhile, you're doing so many things. Like, you know, the video cannot show, but yes, I can see it. And cool, man. And so, how you develop this technique, like in those?
Well, it's been an evolution. You know, it's been 15 years. So, you know, going back 15 years ago when I first began, it was actually I had a mic and I'd be beatboxing. It'd be like one pedal, the guitar, and a mic for beatboxing to create the beats. And then maybe like, I don't even know now, like 9 years ago, I guess, I experimented with attaching the iPod Touch or the iPod at the time to my guitar so I could have beats. Because one thing I noticed that if I was at let's say at a conventional venue where it was like DJs and that kind of thing, the second I turned the mic on, it'd be a huge feedback, right? Yeah. And you know, so once I just went directly, I realized, wow, this is so much more convenient. I never have to worry about the feedback, and then the levels, everything is balanced and whatnot, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, okay, well, beatboxing's cool, I love it, but you know, guitar, and it was more about the sound I could generate and the practicality of it and the feng shui of it in a way, you know what I mean? And since then, that's what I've been doing, and maybe just been a few years that as I got another guitar, and I sort of realized that it was kind of like taking up space on the guitar if I had the iPod Touch on there, and finally I realized, like, you know, it was almost like I didn't think it would work necessarily. I just thought, wow, what if I did it with my toes? Kind of like a joke. It sounded funny, but then I did. I was like, actually, that's really convenient because now my hands are free.
You got two more ends.
Exactly, you know, and I thought, you know, this is great. I'm just going to do this now. And so it's been a few years. So, you know, it's consistently evolving and growing. So when you see the finished product, it looks like, wow, how'd you come up with all that? But the truth is, it was just little by little, and then that grows, and like I said, year after year, it just evolves, and the musicality evolves to guitar. I'm constantly kind of upgrading and learning more styles and whatnot, you know, and it just kind of grows from there.
And also, you've been sponsored by Line 6.
That was a long time ago. That was back in 2008.
2008, okay.
2008 or so. And that was, I mean, it's hard to believe for me now that it's evolved, because I look back in my mind to back that era, and it was so much less evolved than it is now. And, you know, in the sense that it's developed so much since then. But, yeah, that was very special to me because they were down with me. We're talking like MySpace days when I had a video up on that, and I sent it, and they were like, wow, this is great. And looking back, it was like so primitive compared to what it is now, what I do. But, yeah, they sponsored me. Eventually, back in 2010, I went to Europe for 6 months on a bike music tour that I got invited to join. In that time, just kind of that took over. That sort of like a year got lost doing that. Not lost, but it was an awesome experience. But then in that time, Line 6 kind of, it was like new staff, new turnover, and I sort of lost touch with them. And then it kind of moved on, and I figured, okay, eventually I'll hit them up again as I get my thing. But whatever. It was an organic thing that happened, and eventually I'll get back in touch with them and be like, hey, this is what I do now. And a decade ago, I was sponsored by them. Yeah.
Also, I was reading like this anecdote. You went to Montreal, Canada.
Yeah, that's actually the first place I really tried this for as
a bigger audience. So you kind of sneaked in a DMC championship.
Yes, exactly.
And somebody you set up your equipment like on backstage and start to impress anyone, and then like a performer couldn't make it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you went on stage and you kind of like stole the stage. No,
exactly. I feel like that would never work now. I don't know how it worked then, but and this was back when I was playing in the metro station. I was just starting out. And so, I just, I showed up early with all my gear, and I kind of was, just making up that, oh, I'm supposed to play, I'm here to play, just and then I set up backstage, and I started to play, and people were like, whoa, I had a little portable amp and everything. I was ready since I was coming from playing in the metro. And then all the DJs just really took note, and the promoter, everything. And then when one of the performers couldn't make it, they just threw me on, and that was it. And from that point, and this was a big audience, it was like maybe 1,000 people in Club Soda in Montreal, and I met all sorts of people. 8-Track was one of the judges. My producer, who became my producer at the time, DJ Horg in Montreal, he was one of the judges as well. And it was kind of like my introduction and to sort of doing this for real outside of just kind of busking in the metro station. And from that point on, that was really the pivotal time when I realized, like, okay, this is gonna work, because I'm like sort of just faking my way through this, and it's really working like in a whole way I couldn't have imagined. So I decided, like, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna do this now, because I know that it can work. If it was sort of like my confirmation that it would work.
It would work.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of like this is like the confirmation of two sayings. One is that showing up is half of the battle.
Right.
So you show up, and then like half of the battle was won already by showing up, and then the other half by playing. And the second one is that nobody's like a prophet in their own land, no? Because you have to go to Canada, probably, I mean, you're a San Francisco native, no? So you're from San Francisco, and probably you were doing something here already, no? Before going to Canada and playing in the metro station. But it's so, it's
definitely, I definitely hear that. I mean, there was something that happened when I went out there. I went out for 2 months, really on a whim, because I met a friend in Brazil from Montreal, and he invited me I told him I was a musician, and I was whatever. He said, oh yeah, you can come stay with me, because I really wanted to learn French, and then while I was at it, like, go to this cool city. But being on the, being over there, this whole extra dose of inspiration, and then that's actually when I first discovered, like, oh, I can actually plug my mic into this and beatbox. And so now all these songs I had looped and created little repertoire out of, now that I added the beatbox, I thought, like, wow, this is really evolving into something else. So that's kind of like took like another step there. And then like you said, just showing up and trying is like half the battle. So I showed up, and I was just happy to get in for free. Next thing you know, I'm backstage because I was like early there enough. And it was a crazy thought. Looking back, this is 15 years ago now, but it was almost like a crazy idea that it would work, but it just happened to work. And then like I said, my who became my producer, DJ Horg, he produced my first CD at the time that I released out there on the label out there and everything, and it was in stores and whatnot. And we would talk about that time when he said he kind of saw out of the corner of the eye, saw me walking in with a guitar, was thinking, oh, he's going to scratch and he's going to have a guitar, whatever. He wasn't really paying much attention. And then, but then when they saw my show, they were all kind of joking when they were trying to decide who the winner was like, the joke was that like I had like won the competition, even though I wasn't part of the competition. It was just like this featured thing that happened. And also it was like, he remembered that was one of the nights where all of Montreal was there. It was like anyone in music was there at that night. And so it was like, just happened to be like the stars aligned, and I, happened to perform at this thing that really mattered. And like I said, that gave me at the time I was in grad school at UC Berkeley, not doing anything musical related. I've never done music in school, but once that happened and I realized, I kind of got that initial rush of inspiration. I realized like, okay, this is what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to do something like this. And if it's working and I'm just like kind of just fresh out of discovering how to do this, if I put all my energy into it, why wouldn't it work? And so now, it's been all these years But like you said, it really, in some senses, it did take going elsewhere for it to kind of take that extra step.
Yeah, man, because like you went there to get inspired, no?
Yeah.
And also you got recognition over there, no?
Yes.
So it's always good. I mean, I'm always a big supporter of traveling, or like to be outside the comfort zone, where it's where the magic happens. So
Right,
you have to kind of like test yourself and like go outside where it's like your comfort zone, no?
Yeah.
To find some magic, to find even some inspiration, like recognition, possibly, no?
Definitely.
Yeah. So and 15 years after, you came back to. I mean, you came back to San Francisco, not 15 years after, but now you are re-established here, and it's your home base again. And let's talk about this Crystal Mirror studio. That is your studio, no? Where you perform, where you compose too, no? Where you make your music, and also it's for retail, no? It's not for retail, for how you say this? For rent.
Rent.
It's a rent. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Recently, I put it on Peerspace because I've been there for almost 5 years, and I created a very extremely unique environment. It just is an experiment that got out of control in a good way, but I've covered the floor, walls, and ceilings. Every inch of that place is covered in mirrored mylar. So it's two rooms that are connected. So like I said, it's a completely mirror environment. I have LED lights and all sorts of lights coming from every direction, different colors and whatnot. And so recently I put it up on Peerspace to start renting it out as a photo and video shoot, little studio, just to share it, really, just open it to the public. And yeah, that's where it just happened one day. I put mylar on one wall and I realized, like, wow, this looks cool. Then before you know it, everything got mylar eventually, and then layers upon layers of mylar too. So it's just a whole world in there. And so that's where I've been. That's located at the Honey Hive Gallery, which is in the Outer Sunset in San Francisco by Ocean Beach. And so yeah, that's part of why I've been grounded and kind of like been there and figured, I've done a lot of traveling, I've done a lot of that. Let me just create something now, and in a lot of ways, let me get organized on the back end of the logistical elements of the music career to make it, expand and grow and develop. And so that's where I'm at now. I figured, okay, let me just stay put and get a lot of things organized. And 2017 was extremely good for that. I got a lot of things accomplished that needed to get done. And, I'm a one-person team, so, I've become good at what I do. But then there's all these other jobs that are in the mix that if they don't get done, it's like your career can kind of stagnate in a sense. But regardless, I keep improving what I do and keep working on the craft,
I mean, I guess you are busy, with all these things, like taking care of the studio, like making music. And also you are like recording, because the Crystal Mirror Part 1 is out, but there's going to be the Part 2 and Part 3, no?
Yeah, I spent, like I said, about 5 years recording with this producer, Josh Hu, just world-class, amazing studio engineer with an amazing studio in Berkeley. And so, yeah, it was a weekly thing for about 5 years. We recorded with about, I lost track, maybe like 40 different artists, vocalists, MCs, and whatnot. And so we have all this material that I'm just, figuring out all the steps to put out correctly, to put out, in the right way. It's not necessarily my specialty. So recently I've hired help, to do all the other stuff that needs to start, getting this out to the world and shaping this in the right way. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm doing my thing somewhat in obscurity, in the obscurity of my crystal mirror space, in
the luminescence, obscurity of the crystal
mirror. Right, But it is what it is, and it's all, like I said, recently I had a custom mirror suit made. So there's little elements, little details that I've been able to develop over the years, and so yeah,
and find your own identity as an artist,
exactly,
as a performer, as a musician.
Definitely. In some ways, it's like it's good in a way to do it without being too exposed, because it's like the final product is so much more evolved. And I look back at just 2-3 years ago and I think like, oh my God, this is so much more developed, and just the look, everything about it, just so many from the musical details to the G mixing to the what I'm wearing to the external, like all this stuff I've created, you know, to
Yeah.
make a real show performance.
I mean, you are evolving as an artist, so
Yeah,
probably
definitely.
you will look back like in 5 years
Uh-huh.
to now, and you say like, oh, I was kind of naive doing that,
Right,
because
right,
you're
right.
gonna evolve also, no?
Right.
So
True.
you never know.
True.
But it's good to evolve, no? Because we are like living creatures, even as artists or performers. So we have
Yeah.
to evolve, no? We
Yeah.
have to like adapt and evolve and change and learn and grow, no?
Mhm.
These things. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool, man. So let's play some other music live while you're here. Like everything is. Another thing, yeah.
Mhm.
Before. So I see you modify your guitar as well, no?
Yeah. Well, there's some modifications on it. So these are kill switches. I have
Okay.
there's like a Morse code button.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's like a kill
Did it-
switch,
yeah.
and this is a 3-way kill switch. That's like off, on, off. So I can
Okay.
get kind of like the stuttering effect you would do like in transforming and
In
in
transforming, yeah,
scratching,
in scratching,
you know,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I had this switch, pickup switch adjusted so there's no. Basically, it just switches real fast. I can kind of,
Okay.
as I'm playing, kind of like a fader in a way, you know, the way a DJ. So, like I said, a lot of it is turntablism inspired. But then I went off and did my own thing with it, you know.
And also, like you're from San Francisco, there is kind of the cradle of technology, the Bay Area.
Yes.
So even like as a musician, probably in San Francisco, you have this influence of the technology, and you use technology for your craft. No?
Yes.
So I mean, I think like any kind of things. I mean, from like using loop pedals to connect stuff, like modify things. So it's you use technology in a good way as a tool for your
Definitely.
expression.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I guess you are like like you can be the representative of it, no? Because you do it like you crafted it like technology in your art.
Yes.
The Genie here, BFF.FM Espresso Sesh. Are you gonna play something?
I'm down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's.
Let's see. So, okay. So
You wanna G-mix something? You wanna do some original? You wanna?
I'll do some G mixing. Here's okay. Recently I did. So I like The Cure a lot. Like a lot of my influences. You were asking me about my influences
Yeah.
earlier, and The Cure, going back to way back in the day. Portishead, of course, Radiohead, and that kind of thing. Here's a. You'll recognize this Cure, but it's a beat. The beat is actually by Gel, who's on Anticon. He's a beat maker guy, and so I took his beat, and on top of it, I did an old Cure song. So
Okay.
let me get this ready. All right.
G-mix live, the Genie, BFF.FM Espresso Sesh. That was great. That was great. Yo. Also, you develop your own technique playing guitar like this way, no?
Yeah.
Because you like the bar chords, like, you know, it's your own way to to play this. Yeah, it's great, man. Like, you know, this is like, you know. And so this was like another G mix made on the spot. Like
yeah, in the beginning I had it was rough just because I'm, you know, setting up in different place, sometimes even a little slight different angle, because it's all live, right?
Yeah.
So if I had to miss the loop in the first, I have to bring it back, boom, but then I catch it, you know?
It's the beauty, man. Like, you know, music is, if it's like, I have this approach a la Thelonious Monk, no? Like, if there are some like little mistakes, it's good, man. It's because we are human, no?
Right. That's what makes it not software. It's not a machine. It's not a computer. It's like me doing it in the moment. But then I catch the feeling, and it's just on.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, and cool, man.
Thank you.
Cool. And okay, so you have some show line up.
Yes.
In this month, no? Like soon.
The 16th, I'm playing in Oakland, a big warehouse party in Oakland. It's put together by Turf Inc., which is turf dancing. A lot of amazing, talented turf dancers from the East Bay, as well as in collaboration with a company called Black Medicine. They're like a local coffee company that make coffee that sells like at like Safeway and Whole Foods, all that. It's canned black coffee, community oriented, but it's a big warehouse party. I don't know the address off the top of my head. It's a warehouse in Oakland on Independent Road. It's like, but you can find all my info at the Genie Music, my website, the Genie Music, or Instagram, the Genie Music. It's TheGenie Music, and so all the info is there. So
yeah, you go by the Genie, no? How you pick this name?
It's a trip. Like I said, it's been 15 years, and so now it's like, it's sort of like who I am today and how it relates to that, you know, name versus 15 years ago. It's different, you know. So that's evolved too. But 15 years ago, let's see, about 16 years ago, I went to Palestine on a delegation. I was working, you know, again, this was kind of like my past life, where I was in school. I went to SF State. I did international relations. Then I went to UC Berkeley. Was doing a master's in Latin American studies, and so that whole world, that whole life, that was, you know, I was doing music always my whole life since I was a kid playing guitar. But at the time, I was very inspired by struggles in Palestine and involved with that in Latin America and whatnot. So I was there, and that was just such a you know, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was very influential, very inspiring. I mean, going out there and seeing that reality just blew my mind, you know. And so I got touched by a very magical inspiration that somehow just evolved into me picking that name. I inspired by what I saw over there and whatnot, and it just stuck with me. And I just made it, you know, realistically, like I wanted to develop something new. What I created today was, I couldn't envision it at the time, but I knew this was what I wanted to do. I wanted to like create something, like I said, inspired by how the Scratch Pickles had created something just so far ahead of the curve and like so futuristic and just so beautiful in its own way. And so, you know, I wanted to do that. You know, I wanted to create, but with my tools, and I didn't know what it was going to look like exactly, but you know, that's what I dedicated my life to. And so that's, I guess it represents the direction I took my life in and what I've been able to add to this craft.
Yeah, I think, you know, you're doing, I mean, it's kind of it's a tough quest, no, to dedicate your life in, but you know, like it's rewarding when you get there, no?
Of course, yeah.
And I think it's rewarding also when you share the magic, no?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, it's, I mean, like, with scratch guitar comes to my mind Tom Morello, no?
Yeah.
But it's a completely different approach.
Definitely different.
Yeah, and it's great guitarist. Like, he was an innovator as well back in the day. But it's a completely different approach.
Totally different. His name comes up a lot when people see what I do and they think, okay, who is this in the general genre of? But like you said, it's actually completely different. But it's just the concept of, okay, there's a guitar and there's innovation,
scratching guitar,
right,
and like
hip
hop, yeah.
You know,
but it's completely different. It's completely different. But you definitely, like, probably Rage Against the Machine at some point in your life you were listening to Rage Against the Machine.
You know, I was more of I've listened to hard rock and music. I started out that way back in the 80s, you know, but I was, let's see, who did I like? I mean, I was more of a Metallica kind of guy back, you know, when I was just starting out, and to this day, whatever, I love their stuff. And very guitar, let's say, as far as guitar I'm more like I like jazz guys like Stanley Jordan, and you know this is again, it doesn't always show directly in how I play, but somewhat like with the finger tapping and whatnot. Joe Satriani and different obvious guitar virtuosos. Even Slayer, even like real heavy stuff. But then in my mind, it all blends. It's like a salad, right? There's some Portishead, there's some Radiohead, there's some Slayer, there's some Metallica.
It's always like that, no?
Right.
We like take the influence and then like mix and match and then pull out like what is like the, it's like a soup. No?
Exactly.
With all these ingredients are the influence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also talking about influence. I would like for you to play some song that you pick as like influence.
Okay.
But I think it's I think let's do this later.
Sure.
I would love to hear you play some more, please.
It's cool because I'm so used to just showing up, and like I said, when I showed up in Montreal, I was like boom, because I was already kind of like battle tested by playing in the metro stations. I was like I had everything I needed together, but it's always kind of like when you set up somewhere else. It's like, how do you adjust to that environment? And but yeah, that's the fun. So yeah, I'd gladly love to.
And also, thank you for bringing like the lights also and making like this also visual experience for who can see this on Facebook.
Yeah.
And if you're just listening on the radio, like probably you can hear the nuances in the reflection of the sound because of the mirrors and stuff. What are you gonna play for us?
Okay, this is a G-mix of artist, producer Munchi. I think he's Dominican, but he made it out of Europe. But he does all sorts of electronic, bass music sounding stuff. But it's like Latin oriented, but with electronic. So you'll kind of get a feel for it. Let's see. And then over it, I'm gonna play this old school hip hop song by a group called CRU. CRU. It was like back in the '90s, and they had a song called "Just Another Case." And so that sampled some old beautiful jazz guitar, and so anyway, you'll hear it.
Yeah, okay.
wash my soul. I will come to your river, wash my soul. I will come to your river, wash my soul. Carry away my dead leaves, let me baptize my soul with the help of your waters. Sink my veins and complaints, let the river take them. My ego and my blame, let me baptize my soul with the help of your waters. Those old memes, I'm so ashamed, let the river take them.
Cool, man. Different styles, like bass music, like little cumbia. You know, like electro. You know, it's a wide range of sounds. And also, I see that you are also DJing with that. No, so you develop also like really like G-mix, also like mixing live and putting like elements, like songs together, doing transitions and stuff like that. Yeah, man, it's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
It's very impressive because you know, it's, I mean, watching it from as close, it's even more impressive. No? I think you need, like, I mean, in a performance, just having an idea right now, no? Just put some like cameras and a project. Like you need a camera like on your feet, no? Because you know, like it's like the precision. You are like with your toes. You are changing the values, the parameters, like in your pedals right there. It's impressive, no? So you know, like in that there is like a surgical accuracy that, like, you know, like cool, man. I mean, it's something that you crafted in a lot of years, so you know I can tell it's doing well.
Thank you.
You're doing pretty well. So, what are you working these days on? You have original music mostly, or like G mixing mostly, or like perfectioning your technique, or like performance.
With what I do, well, a lot of you know, to be able to show up to a show, let's say, and do for an hour, you know, I have to really practice all the time to make sure, always troubleshooting the gear too, because the gear, you know, it has a lifespan. So, you know, so that I know everything works at all times, that I work, that I'll be able to kind of be able to, you know, be able to like just drive to the venue and then just without having, you know, you don't usually have a chance to warm up, just literally begin and go, you know.
And go, yeah.
So I have to, you know, like here, it's always just challenging myself to be able to summon it and improvise in the moment. If I mean to bring in one song but another song, or whatever it is, if it's a different sound that came in than what I expected, I have to like adjust and in the moment kind of go with it. But you do that so much over time, it just becomes part of the flow. So I keep myself sort of like in musical shape doing that. One of the projects sort of side musical project I'm working on right now is I've been working with a cello player. And we're doing you know, so all looping and electronics aside, I'm doing an unplugged thing where I'm doing like Spanish guitar, and then him on the cello. And so of course I know all these Radiohead songs because it's, you know,
it's part of your
it's part of my repertoire. And so
but also your musical identity, probably, yeah?
At this point, because it's sort of like, I mean, every day I'm you know, it's one of those things you have to work on to really stay, you know, for it to stay sharp. And so I have a side project called Radio Headlamp. So it's like kind of like taking the notion of like Genie and a lamp, and then like the Radiohead, so Radio Headlamp, you know, like wearing a third eye. To me, it was like a euphemism for like third eye is like the headlamp, you know what I mean? And so we're doing all these Radiohead songs that and with cello on it. I played, like I said, on Spanish guitar, but also on piano. Sometimes I'll do him on the piano and he'll play cello, and it just sounds wonderful. It's just something I do for the love of it. But it's very powerful.
Still with loop pedals? And,
no, that is just,
and just
unplugged. So like I said, that's a side project. So it's just, you know, it's sort of, in a way, it's a refreshing kind of break from doing all this, which is great, which is what I love to do. But and it also keeps me in musical shape too, and helps me kind of like expand it and diversify style and whatnot.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's cool to do. But so it's gonna be like interesting, like acoustic set, Radiohead covers, guitar and cello. Cool.
Yeah, my friend Steve Sparapani, he's an excellent cello player.
Yeah, I think I like briefly see something like that in your Instagram, but I haven't like check on the details. Cool.
Yeah.
So there is like any show, or you guys are working?
We're like, tomorrow we're playing at Impact Hub SF. They're having a holiday party. So we we just met like a month ago. We both played at a show in San Rafael. It was a benefit for the NorCal fires, and he was performing with some musicians. He saw what I did, and he was really into it. And he said, "Hey, you want to? You know, I play cello. Let's do this. Let's we can work on some music." And so I invited him to my studio, and then I was like, "Hey, well, here, play to this," and started playing Radiohead on the piano, and then with the cello over it, just sounded like wonderful. And so so that's tomorrow night at Impact Hub SF. And but besides that, like I said, primarily my shows are, my live looping thing, what I do, like I said, the 16th at the Turf Inc. throwing the warehouse party in Oakland. Also on the 28th, DJ Quest actually just contacted me last night about he's opening up for the Invisible Scratch Pickles at the Independent and asked me to join him, work something out with him and Mofano, actually. So that'll be the 28th at the Independent. That'll be a collaboration, and we'll do something.
We'll figure out some some
exactly.
magic for that occasion.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna put it on my calendar.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be. And also, for you, I mean, Invisible Scratch Pickles were your,
Right.
your masters, no?
Yeah.
Like your, I mean, you learn from them, no?
Definitely,
They were like, wow, your inspiration.
So it's very, in a way, kind of like synchronistic and magical that it all comes around like that,
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate that even more for that. Yeah.
Cool. San Francisco. Now let's talk about this city.
Mm-hmm.
You are from here.
I'm from here.
So
yeah.
and so you know like way better than me. You know like the multicultural aspect of the city. There are different ethnic groups with different music, no, together, and like from and in the past like decades. From the Bay Area came like the Invisible Scratch Pickles, but also like Metallica you mentioned. There was so many things like electronic music, the Summer Love, like so many stuff. No, so long story short, I'm trying to figure out if there is like a sound of San Francisco or the Bay Area. If there is just one sound, or there is like a multitude of sound, or there's something that you can. Like summarize like in one definition.
Well, historically there has been, I feel like the current era that we're in now has been sort of a lot has been pushed out of San Francisco because of the how it's now the most expensive city in the country, and there's a lot of articles floating, everyone knows about them, about how a lot of the arts and music scene are being pushed out because just regular artists can't afford to make what tech money people make, and so a lot of it has been pushed out, but like you were mentioning, like a lot of the most influential, like let's say like heavy metal and thrash and all that, like Metallica and all that, were from here, from San Francisco. Faith No More, but we're going back decades now, as far as like 80s and even going into the 90s until the switch started to happen. The top tier turntablism emerged here first with the Cuber, Mixmaster Mike, Shortcut, DJ Quest, and all these folks that really took it to another level, and then it caught on like wildfire the rest of the world, and eventually, so it was a place of influence, as far as that goes. A lot of great musicianship comes out of here. The San Francisco is an interesting place too, because I think about it a lot because it's really in the spotlight, right? Everyone knows about it, everyone talks about it, but now a lot of the music scene has been pushed out, or it's just not conducive to being a full-time artist or full-time musician, and so at least that's what I've seen. I mean, there's going to be musicians and artists in every city, of course, it's a given, but really, I guess in some ways tech has brought good, of course, and it's like a major engine of progress and whatnot, but in some regard it's affected the culture, the musical and artistic culture particularly, that it's made it almost like uninhabitable in a way, or not sustainable. It's hard to sustain oneself doing that here, and there's not a lot of the venues have closed, and it doesn't seem as much of a scene that can help you get to the next level if you're really, so for me, I've been doing my thing in a way. It's like, it's hard to kind of get far here. I'm doing my best, and there's still people that love it and support it and want it to, to be a thing still. But a lot of this has now become like structural, economic structural element of it. But we have amazing artists in the Bay, like Fantastic Negrito in the East Bay. A lot of it, everyone's moved to the East Bay, won a Grammy and whatnot. And yeah, I have all sorts of musical comrades, like Zion I, Deuce Eclipse, a lot of people that are really killing it right now, doing their thing. But as far as like San Francisco sound, it's hard to tell now because there's so much influx now. There's like the culture and the population has been replaced in a lot of ways.
It's mostly like a momentary. It's like a passage city, like you cannot settle down in San Francisco. It looks like you stay there here for a couple of years, 10 years, sounds an amount of years, and then. Yeah. I mean, I love it here. It's kind of, I mean, I don't want to say it's a cliche. It's a love-hate current, but it's, it's home, and
But yeah, and I love the community. I mean, a lot of things, I guess, once you live here, you kind of take for granted how walkable it is, how there's like in LA, I've spent time in LA doing my thing, and yeah, a place like that where there's not a walking culture, there's not like you drive everywhere and there's you don't walk anywhere, or there's nothing is walkable, but besides, few and far between places.
Or some neighborhoods, inside some neighborhoods.
Right.
Do you get inspired? You still get inspired in San Francisco?
I do, like I said, the having my studio, creating that kind of space. That's why whenever I perform, I try to recreate it in some ways and add to it, because that's how I keep the inspiration, by just affecting the environment in that way in my own artistic vision. And in some ways, I want to give back to this city, this place, the Bay Area, to San Francisco, by really, showing up and doing my thing, and really, evolving the style, evolving music, and really being, hopefully someday we can like really represent from here, Actually, a couple summers ago, a video team came from France, from Paris, and we're doing a 2-month project where they drove from New York to San Francisco, and along the way profiled different musicians and artists in different cities. And in San Francisco, I'm the artist that they profiled, and that was just because a friend in LA recommended me to them, a musician from a group called Las Cafeteras, who had seen me play before and knew I lived in San Francisco. And so that's gonna air fairly soon on the French national TV, so in some regard I'm going to be representing for San Francisco, specifically, directly, and so and it's all of Europe. I mean, it's from France, but it airs in all of Europe. And so that's one instance where being in San Francisco actually worked in my favor, because they were specifically looking for someone doing something cool in San Francisco they could cover, and so yeah. So in some regard, I'd rather stay here than have to. I've thought about, in a sense, kind of almost being like a musical refugee, going to LA to get somewhere with it. You know what I mean? To all the kind of like the gatekeepers that allow you to get the exposure are there, versus here it's not so much, not really at all, actually.
Yeah, not really, probably, yes.
It's like you can do it in obscurity here, and it's kind of doesn't, so there's that. But then it's kind of a hard call, because I love it here. So what I've done recently, since I have this beautiful space, I don't necessarily want to just give up immediately, is just brought on help, hired help to help me figure out how to do it on the internet, how to get it the right way, because everything you're seeing is live, but I've never been a techie person. I don't know any software, which is kind of like a interesting thing in this city, to like not be tech savvy or not be, is just I'm busy with this, what you're seeing now.
You are savvy in the hardware, no?
Right, exactly.
You know your pedals, like how to put it together,
exactly,
and make it work, no?
Exactly, like I said, in some ways it's almost like, the city's been gentrified, but even like the musical process has been gentrified, where nowadays, like, it's almost like the laptop replaced the guitar, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of folks, they can't really relate to a show where it's not a laptop there, where before it was like a guitar that people would be like, wow, that's, that now it's, and I go to a lot of these shows, a lot of big performances where there's no performance. I mean, it's like a listening party where they can't really, these producers, electronic producers, and I love the music, but they can't do that live. There's not even a context where it would be live. It's just like a list, everyone enjoys it, and they're just, so in a way it's an interesting dynamic. But regardless, I'm still doing my thing, and people appreciate it for what it is. But finding my place where it fits, that no one quite does this. It's either it's a band and there's music and there's musicians, or it's like electronic and it's just like the laptop and the whatever, software driven.
You find your own niche, like in the music, no? Like, and definitely you're doing like something that is pretty unique, no?
Yeah.
And also, you're contributing to the community, like with the space, like with the crystal mirror, no?
Definitely, that feels good.
Like, and I think, this is it's still a beautiful place to be.
It's beautiful, totally beautiful.
It's a very open space. It's a very tolerant, and
Definitely.
it's one of the most advanced culturally place in the States.
Definitely, absolutely, definitely.
So it's every time like I go outside San Francisco, I start to miss it. Because there are so many things that now, But I totally agree with you. Like, probably for a musician, like you're gonna go, like you're gonna make the next level if you stay here.
Right. That's the hard
very
call.
Hard. It's very hard. It's very hard. But in the meanwhile, it's nice to be here. And if you can get inspired by a place, it's a good thing. And if you can bring your inspiration back to the place is also good. No, so it's a give and take. So you play some inspirational thing. Let's get ready. Actually, let's do what? Let's have a break on talk.
Break, yeah.
Let's play one song because I'm playing the album, like Crystal Mirror Part 1, in the background. Shall we play one song in the foreground?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, which one?
There's one called Vanishing Point, which I think is... I love all of them, but yeah, how about Vanishing Point?
Vanishing Point is the track number 8. You want to introduce the track for us? Give it like a couple of words about it?
Yeah, well, this is a
about
song...
the influence, like about what... Yeah.
This is a beautiful song created with my producer, Joss Hu, off of Crystal Mirror Part 1.
There was Vanishing Point, and I ask you about like some influential music for you, and will you pick up this one?
The Cure, If Only Tonight We Could Sleep. Like I said, I'm a big Cure fan. I G-mix a lot of their stuff, and recently I G-mixed this with DJ Snake. Found a cool beat of his, and so, but I figured I'd play the original.
The original one,
yeah.
Okay. All right. with this song from The Cure. It's time to wrap the show up. But thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having
Genie,
me.
for being here.
My pleasure.
Check his music out, thegenie.com.
Thegeniemusic.com. Thegeniemusic.com. And my Instagram and Bandcamp and YouTube, it's all The Genie Music. But thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I was it was like a chamber room. I was hearing ourselves again. Thank you so much, man. Like, thank you. Great music, great performance.
Oh,
Check him
thank
out.
you.
It's gonna play on the
16th in Oakland Warehouse Party. It's at thegeniemusic.com. I'll have all the information.
All the information.
Yeah.
And you can check out this music also on Bandcamp and support the artists, because we always love to support the artist, and buy music, original music from like local artists. It's like buying a small business, no,
Right,
like
exactly.
shop. So it's more like local business shop, local shops,
Exactly,
local
exactly.
artists. We support it. Thank you for being here. BFF, best frequencies forever. The Genie.
Thank you.
All right, we got some hip-hop music for you to end the show, but stay tuned, because at 4 p.m. it's gonna be Astral Projection Radio Hour. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao. See you next week. All right, Espresso Sesh.